places will be loyal to you as long as you are productive. And a lot of times when your productivity towards your perceived productivity goes away, so does that loyalty, and boom, you're out the door. You're out the door. And the story I want to talk about is about Cassidy Rowe. Now, Cassidy Rowe is probably someone that you all have never heard of, right? Probably never heard of her, but she is a junior guard who was born and raised in Kentucky. She loves Kentucky. Just recently graduated with a degree in kinesiology. Was all set to go to a PT school in January. Or next season or next year, but she was taking classes and whatnot. She was told by Kenny Brooks that her scholarship is over. She's a junior heading into her senior playing season. That would be 4 years at the University of Kentucky, and she's gone. She is out the door at Kentucky. And this decision by Kenny Brooks, it pissed a lot of people off. Now I'm gonna just say that. Now this is something that, to be honest with you, I had never really heard of Cassidy Rowe. Never really heard of her, right? Mainly because she's not one of the best players on Kentucky. Mainly because she's dealt with a lot of injuries, right? This is not a player that has been healthy the whole time, right? So this is someone who has had 2 severe injuries in her past. As a freshman, she only played in about 13 games. And as a sophomore, she played in 31 games, meaning last season before this season started. She played in a bunch of games, made a couple of starts last year. She didn't average that many points, right? 2.6 points a game, one rebound a game, 17.4 minutes a game. So like not that much. So this is not me saying Cassidy Rowe is not a star on Kentucky. I don't think anybody would say that Cassidy Rowe is a star on Kentucky. Now, going into college, she was a big deal. She was someone who could get you in high school about 16 points a game, right? She is a point guard. She is also a point guard who could knock down threes. She was looked at when it came to scouts looking at her and seeing about her possibly going to different programs. She was looked at and was recruited. And smaller teams were like, hey, you can come on to our team and you can play a lot of games with us. You can be our starting point guard. You can rock out with our team if you come here. But Cassidy Rowe grew up a Kentucky fan. She grew up a Kentucky fan, and even though she was really good at basketball, she was not necessarily that good at basketball that enabled her to go to Kentucky and start and actually have a lot of playing minutes. She was good enough to be really, really good on any other team, but she chose to go to Kentucky. And she's also someone who has had a lot of injuries, right? A lot of injuries throughout her career. And her injuries and just all the stuff that has gone on, it prevented her from being a super, super productive player on the court. Now, for Kentucky, though she still could be a very productive player for any other squad, but for Kentucky, she rode the bench largely, right? She was someone who actually did not play a ton this year. And this decision by Kenny Brooks to remove her scholarship, in one hand, is understandable because you just look at her stats. Look at her stats, right? She's been with Kentucky for 3 years. Last year she played the most minutes ever at 17.4. This year she didn't play that much. She played about 10 minutes a game, but she only played in 23 games. And so in some sense, there is logic to the decision to not extend or not continue the scholarship for Cassidy Rowe. There is some understanding to that, but then you think about who Cassidy Rowe is, right? And you think about what other schools have decided to do, right? You all may remember, if y'all are LSU fans, y'all may remember Izzy Besselman. Izzy Besselman is a player who loved LSU, went to LSU, was not on scholarship, didn't play very much for LSU, but was ultimately injured, and was not gonna play again for the rest of the season. And in December of 2024, Kim Mulkey, knowing that Izzy Besselman could not add anything to her program in terms of on the court, but was beloved by the fan base, right? We saw Kim Mulkey make the decision to give Izzy Besselman a scholarship because ultimately it is the coach's prerogative on what they want to do. So there is precedent for players who are not super productive on the floor, but are beloved by the fan base, beloved by the the team to extend a scholarship. And the thing was, for Izzy, I don't believe she wasn't on a scholarship when she was awarded that scholarship. And for Cassidy Rowe, she was already on scholarship. Cassidy Rowe was on scholarship for the University of Kentucky for 3 seasons already, and it was just a decision to remove that for next season, for her final season. And I wanna actually tell the story a little bit better by first showing you all what Kenny Brooks had to say about Cassidy Rowe. Because Cassidy Rowe, again, is someone who really does live and breathe Kentucky. And I wanna play this for y'all. So give me a second. I'm gonna play this clip of what Kenny Brooks had to say about Cassidy Rowe. Now, this was a while ago that he said this, but yeah, I'm playing.
And Cassidy, I tell the story a lot when I met with, each and every player from last year's team. Some of them were already in the portal. And Cassidy, when she started talking about her experiences here, I swore when she started crying, it was blue tears. And I'm like, man, this kid had me, she had me at hello just because she knew how much she loved Kentucky. And we've been pulling off of those experiences, because as newcomers, I know what Kentucky is from an outsider, but I'm like, why? Why Kentucky? Everybody says this is Kentucky, and I'm asking her why. And, she stuttered and stammered a little bit, and that was enough for me. She was just everything. She cried, she talked about it, and she's been great here, and what she may lack in height or anything else, she makes up for it with her pride of Kentucky. And so she's been a big plus for us.
Yeah, so that was what Kenny Brooks had to say. Again, she was someone who bled Kentucky blue. Kenny Brooks said it, right? She loved Kentucky. Yes, she was not the tallest point guard, right? She was not someone who was necessarily built for the SEC, in my opinion. No, this is no disrespect or anything. But Cassidy Rowe would be a really good player for, a mid-major, that type of thing. But she was not necessarily someone who was going to play a lot of minutes or whatnot for Kentucky, but she was someone who loved the program, bled for the program. And Kenny Brooks realized when he first started, when he talked to Cassidy Rowe, he realized how amazing Cassidy Rowe was and what she meant to the program, and how much she cared about the program. So that was what Kenny Brooks said back then. And then I found this interview of Cassidy Rowe where she was asked about why she decided to stay at Kentucky after the decision was made to part ways with Kyra Elzy and bring on Kenny Brooks. And I do want to play her response because I thought it was pretty important.
When you found out that Elzy was leaving and Kenny Brooks was coming in, was there anything in you that said, okay, maybe I need to leave, or did you always want to stay?
I knew that I always wanted to stay. I was more just, praying that Coach Brooks would want to keep me and that I could keep representing my state. So it's such a blessing that he's allowed me to do that.
He said something about you crying blue tears, and I think that is just the perfect representation of you and your spirit for this school. So what would you say makes you the most proud to wear Kentucky blue?
I would say representing my family, but more than that, even just my community. Like I said, there's not a lot of people from my hometown that do things like this, that play at the next level. So I feel like I'm not only representing myself and my team, but I'm representing every little girl in Eastern Kentucky who has the same dreams. And I just would want them to know that it's not impossible. No matter how many people tell you that it is. I had so many people tell me that I was never going to make it. And so I feel like I'm just representing them as well.
So yeah, the reason why I'm playing these clips is to kind of give you an idea of who Cassidy was as a person, because we know her actual stats on the court. Again, not huge at all. However, this was someone who was very, very much a part of the Kentucky fabric, right? And it got to the point where I started to see article after article about Cassidy Rowe and how pissed off the Kentucky fan base was, because it was one of those things where Kentucky fans knew about the, talent level of Cassidy, However, they also knew how much she connected with the fans, how much she loved the fans, how much they rocked with her. And she was a homegrown kid, which again matters a lot more than transfers. A lot of times transfers come through, right? But it's becoming less and less that we have players who grow up in the community of the school, who attend games as a kid with their parents, who ultimately go to that said school and then, rock out there. Like Cassidy Rowe, what made her so important to the fabric of Kentucky was that she was a homegrown kid. A homegrown kid who decided to stay home and play for the school she loved, right? And it's kind of interesting. And then I ended up seeing a interview where her dad actually went on a talk show to talk about Cassidy and just talk about like what this meant and how they were kind of blindsided by the whole thing. And like here's a clip of that show just to kind of give y'all a taste of like what was going on that front. Basically, what I'm trying to show is that there's a lot of people who are like pissed about the whole thing. Like a lot of people who are pissed about the whole thing.
And as I'm about to introduce this guest, look, on the one hand, a coach can do any damn thing they want when it comes to their roster. I respect it, okay? That doesn't mean I have to like it. And this sucks. It just sucks. And look, I've done dumb things. We all do dumb things. Maybe not you, Jimmy. You've been like almost perfect with me. And I've given up waiting for the other shoe to hit. Seriously. You've been great. Scouts on it. You deserve a raise. Tell Lynn that. But and that's all serious. But this is really bad. I mean, really bad. From a common sense, from a PR, and I don't know what the hell Kenny Brooks was thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Lonnie Rowe is kind enough to join us. His daughter Cassidy first of all, thank you for joining us. And two, tell me where I'm wrong from your perception. Your daughter was kicked off the team because scholarships are for 1 year. They're renewed every year. That's been going on for a long time. You don't renew the scholarship and you're kicked off the team. Am I wrong?
You are 100% right, Alan.
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. How shocked were you?
Probably about a 15.
Now, let me throw a couple things out here. So since Cassidy, and I bet she's great at it too, is going to PT school, and her whole life, all she wanted to do was play for Kentucky. You correct me anytime I'm wrong. And she committed to Kentucky in 8th grade, ripped knees twice. I remember seeing her this year, and I said it on radio that I couldn't believe that she wasn't even wearing a knee brace. The rehab that she went through had to be just exhausting and unbelievable, as it is for anyone, but not even to wear a brace. And I would watch her feet and I'm going, oh my gosh, if I didn't know, you couldn't tell she ever had a knee injury. So her work was probably past vivacious. But if I understand this correctly, by pulling the scholarship now, and he's got 7 or 8 open scholarships, by pulling it now, your daughter going to PT school, she has to pay for it. That should have been paid for by UK. Whatever she made in NIL, I'm sure it wasn't millions. I'm being facetious, but that's also gone too. And you can't transfer because, explain why you can't transfer.
Well, you can't transfer now because the application process to get in PT school is done during the fall. That's when they do their interviews. So when Cassidy got in, it was during the fall. And now that, it's a spring semester, she just can't go and apply and try to get in because it's going to put her probably another year behind.
Did UK?
If we would have known ahead of time, it would have already been different. We had no idea. And all of her plans were centered around her last year.
UK, did Kenny Brooks and his staff know that she couldn't transfer PT schools?
I'm not for sure if they did or not. No, honestly, I don't think they cared.
Wow. You don't think they cared?
No, I do not.
So you're a coach and it's your baby girl. And so my take is, right or wrong, we can differ. If there was like one scholarship left and he thought he can bring in someone who would be a starter or a potential All-American or potential All-SEC or somebody could play a ton, I wouldn't like it, but I could see it. But he's got like at least 7 scholarships. And so to me, this really, really, really stinks from a PR point of view and from a human kindness point of view. Do you see it the same way, or do you think I'm wrong? Let's say if there's one scholarship and somebody late is transferring in from Rutgers and she's a potential All-American. Am I wrong with that part? Tell me what you agree with and tell me what you disagree with.
I agree with most of it, Alan. The one part I don't agree with is, we're dealing with the lives of kids. If Cassidy was a freshman, they want to bring someone, great. If Cassidy was a sophomore, they want to bring somebody in, great. Cassidy has been there for 3 years. He has given blood, sweat, tears, and everything to the University of Kentucky and to that program. And if he wanted to cut her last year, so be it. But now that she's a senior and she's ready to enter PT school for this to take place, I think it's classless.
See, I'm going to compare your daughter to Travis Perry for a second, if that's okay. So if Travis gets his scholarship pulled, because that's what it is, you kicked off the team. I mean, this has nothing to do with Cassidy. It's anybody. I don't give a crap if it's Seton Hall, St. John's, whatever. It's you kicked off the team. If they could pull Perry, you're a coach, you love Kentucky, you're going to agree 1,000%. He's not going to have the top 20 schools go after him. He'll have 30 schools go after him quickly. A lot of really good basketball places, by the way. In other words, for a lot of good basketball places. And so that would be different to me because he can go in the portal, might make more money, might get more playing time. By the way, I'm not suggesting they get rid of him. I think, Coach Roy, I think you understand. Right. The point is, he's a freshman. He's a great kid. I don't, from what I know of your daughter and from what I know of Perry, they're equals as far as I'm concerned. 2 great Kentucky kids with a great heart who love this place. Their hearts are off the charts and are really good to people and loving people. people. So, I know it's your daughter. You got to be biased, and I respect that. But it's easy to make a comparison between the two if it was the same. Does that kind of make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. If you're 100% accurate on it now, the Kentucky kids are special to the state of Kentucky. And here's the way I look at it. Kentucky loves their own kids, but in rare instances, every so often, there's a kid that comes along, and regardless of ability, the state of Kentucky instantly becomes a fan. And I feel like Cassidy's one of those kids and they become fans of her because she represents what Kentucky is all about. Blue collar workers, and you look at family people that have little girls in their family. You got the blue collar families that look and say, you know what, I see my little girl in Cassidy because what she went through to get where she's at and what she's done and how she's representing the university. She's done nothing but represent the university in a positive manner. When you hear people say they believe blue, that's 100% accurate with Cassidy. She wanted nothing more than to finish her senior year and have a senior night so she could look around and say, you know what, I want to thank every person that supported me along my journey. But now she's not even gonna get that.
I have a visualization, and I don't remember the point in the game, but in their last game against Kansas State, it was a tight game, all that kind of stuff, and there was a timeout called, and the first person off the bench to cheer on her teammates was your daughter, and I thought it was poignant, and her smile was effervescent, and you could feel the joy she had, even though she wasn't playing. Plus, tell me if I'm wrong, I understand she signed every autograph, like a lot of players do, by the way. I'm not trying to say your daughter's the only one, because that's not fair, but she signed every autograph, took every picture, was both comforting and positive with especially young girls who look up to her, that kind of stuff. And you're going to tell me that's 100% correct.
Yeah, so she started doing that when she was a freshman. And the reason she did it because I used to take her to games. And we would wait after games to get autographs from some of the players. And they never came out. And Cassidy's philosophy was, you know what, Dad? I'm never going to do that. If there's kids here to see me play, I want to approach them and take pictures. I want to sign autographs. I want to give them a hug. I want to let them know that I'm human too, and I'm there for them. And so she started doing it when she was a freshman, Alan. And up to our last game, she would go to 6 and 7 where me and her mother would always sit, and she would meet us there. And it didn't matter if we was walking out of the gym, of the Crash Center, Memorial, wherever it was at. It didn't matter if we was walking out. If there was some kids standing around, they had a poster, and they sort of staring at Cassidy. Cassidy would drop everything, go over, said, do you want an autograph? And so, she related back to the fans, especially the fans of Kentucky, which we know they're the best fans in the world.
How's she doing?
What's that, Alan?
How is she doing?
She's doing well. She's strong.
I know she's strong. She went through 2 knee injuries to come back, but you can't not be devastated. Time will heal a certain amount, but there's going to be something in her stomach probably for the rest of her life, I would assume. No,
she was definitely devastated at the news. I didn't get the news first. My wife did, but my wife left and went to her because she probably needed her mom. But yeah, she was 100% devastated. She said, I didn't want to go out like this. She said, I want to do my senior year. She said, I don't want bad memories of the University of Kentucky. And she said, this makes it tough. She said, I just want to be able to have my senior night, and go through the process of my 4 years.
Coach Rowe, so Cassidy planned her wedding around the summer workouts when she obviously thought she was on the team?
Yes, her wedding was scheduled around. She looked at the schedule they had planned, and she asked what days was going to be all workouts, when they weren't going to be on campus. And she went through that, and she went ahead and scheduled her wedding for that. It just it's frustrating.
What would you say to Kenny Brooks right now if he was sitting across from you?
I don't know, Alan. I'd have to think about that because, sort of like Cassidy, I teach her to be a good person. There's times when it's hard to be a good person when people do things of this sort. I probably would look at him and say, I'll be praying for you that you change and everything changes inside your heart because at this moment, I don't think you have one.
Wow. So, Coach Rowe, in your opinion, this family atmosphere, and at the end of the season, and we saved the soundbite, and he's done this before, but this was a very poignant soundbite by Kenny Brooks talking about how much family means to him and all that. You think it's a bunch of baloney?
Well, in my eyes, 100%.
When you found out, were you yelling, screaming, crying, all the above, saying words that please don't say on my show? But the fact that you say you pray for him, that's unbelievable.
Alan, I didn't yell and scream and stuff. Like I said, I'm a substitute teacher sometimes, but my wife was working. I was home. When my wife called me, I told her I could get to my daughter, and I came straight down and took over her classes. So the yelling and screaming, no, it didn't take place. There's no hate in my heart. I don't hate anyone. We walk by faith, not by sight, our whole family.
Wow. That's a beautiful statement that you would pray for Kenny Brooks, that in his heart he would change. Is there anything else about this you'd like to share? I feel for you. And it's interesting. It'd be one thing if she was a freshman and you might not like it, and that's life, but you could transfer and move and do whatever. Because even though Cassidy wasn't playing for Kentucky, I will always believe there's a whole lot of schools she could have started for. Maybe not in the SEC, and I'm not being disrespectful, and I don't know if you agree with me or not.
Right.
But there's a whole lot of schools she would have started, been the point guard, been the captain, and probably averaged, low double figures and leading assist and all those kinds of things. It's a picture easy easy to paint. You agree?
Yeah, I agree with that because we were actually approached before Cassidy. After she committed, we had smaller schools looking, and they would say, she can come here and be in the Hall of Fame in her program one day. But that wasn't what Cassidy wanted. Cassidy wanted to represent her state, her community. The women's basketball program at the University of Kentucky, that was in her heart. That's what she wanted to do, and she felt great about it. If it meant going down there and being the biggest cheerleader on the team, you saw it. That's what she was willing to do. She was willing to contribute any way she could possibly contribute, on and off the court.
My heart breaks for you. I know this is the real world, and at times the real world is great, and sometimes it sucks, pardon my French. I wish I had something to say that would help you, but you are way past me with your faith. For you to say that you would pray for Kenny Brooks that his heart was changed, that's probably the most poignant comment anybody's made since I've been doing the show.
Well, I appreciate that, Larry. That's how we were raised. That's how we raised Cassidy. That's how we raised our sons. You can't live with hate in your life the entire time because it will eat at you, and you eventually won't be a very good person. And that's not who we are, and that's not who we're going to be.
Is there any way, and this could be my ignorance with rules, and you said it would set her back a year, that she could take similar courses that would lead towards her PT degree someplace else and play basketball in the state? Or am I way? I'm just trying to think of a way. Okay, suppose you lose 6 credits. One thing. It's another thing if you got to do a whole year. That's a different story. But are there some courses in other places where they would love? I think of Eastern Kentucky. I think of Moorhead. They would love. I can't imagine they wouldn't love to have her.
Well, we've had several schools reach out to us, and but like I said, the problem is, of course, she's already committed to her PT school. She graduated in December with her kinesiology degree, so that's all her prerequisites. So this semester, she's taking online classes that are irrelevant to her degree. She's taking business classes and so forth before the fall semester starts for PT.
I have one more ridiculous question to ask. Can I try?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we both know in the world of athletics, at times favors are done, and sometimes the favors are great. And sometimes it's somebody just getting a favor, you scratch your head. That's the way of the world. So, is there a PT school that's closed with admissions that would love to have your daughter so much playing basketball that a coach and a president of another school gets involved? And I'm serious as a heart attack. I'm stretching here, but we all know these things have happened in the past.
Yeah, that could probably take place. Like you said, that's how things work in this world. It's a dog eat dog world, but it's also you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But the situation is, Larry, Cash didn't want to be nowhere else. Kentucky's where she wanted to be. Once she committed, me and her had the conversation was, if you commit, Cash, you got to stay 4 years. Don't commit and say I'm frustrated, I'm leaving after 1. So that was part of the promise she made to me. She's going to stay 4 years. And you got kids nowadays playing 6 and 7 years in college, and my daughter's not getting an opportunity to play for 4.
I guess what is also driving me crazy, besides the other part, is that if that could happen, that she could go somewhere else where a favor can be done, where it'd be beneficial to that place anyway. You don't graduate PT school in debt, and that's the part. That's one of the parts that really ticks me off for you guys. That they owe you paying for PT school. As far as if you were a freshman, no, but I think they owe you that. I mean this. I'm not trying to say to sound nice to you. I honestly believe it was my kid. After everything your daughter has done for that school, that they owe you to pay for that school.
I agree 100%, Larry. Like you said, if you could do favors, why can't you pay for her year? Why can't you look at her and see what she represents to this state? My phone, I've probably gotten 500 phone calls. I've probably gotten over 1,000 messages on Twitter, and they're all saying the same thing. They should have to pay for that, and in my eyes, they should. Like I said before, what she represents is the people of Kentucky, the fans of Kentucky. They can relate to her, and she don't care a bit to relate back to them because I've actually had fans come up and say, "Your daughter's one of the first ones that ever come out of the locker room and come straight up to the stands and start talking to us." She's one of them, and that's what people don't understand. Cassie's not just somebody that a lot of people put herself on a pedestal. I play basketball in Kentucky. Cassie is not like that. Cassie plays basketball, but she's also one of the people that's watching. She's one of them.
Blessings to you and your family. You have all these phone calls. You responded to me every time quickly, and other times too. And we've had some funny text messages too, by the way.
We have.
I don't want to make it sound like
I greatly enjoy talking to you, Alan. You're one of my favorites.
Well, I appreciate that. I feel worse now than I did before when I started the conversation. I feel worse. Matter of fact, I'll tell you the truth. When I heard about it, okay, my language is worse than yours. Let's just get the obvious off the table, okay? But I went no blank way, which I couldn't fill in the blanks on my show. I was like stunned. I felt like I was punched in the stomach, and with my big belly, that wouldn't be pretty anyway.
I wanted to just kind of give you all a taste of like what the sights and sounds are around Cassidy Rowe not getting her scholarship renewed for this year. Now, there are 2 perspectives to think about this. I'm gonna lay out the 2 perspectives, and I'm gonna let you all make up your own mind. Okay. I'm gonna let you all make up her mind, your own mind. Okay. So, one perspective is Cassidy Rowe was on scholarship for 3 years. That means she had her full tuition paid for 3 years, while not playing very much for the team. And one perspective is, hey, she should be happy that she got 3 years. Technically she graduated and was with her kinesiology degree and was getting ready to go to PT school. And yes, I understand that she loves Kentucky and whatnot, but Kenny Brooks needs players who can immediately contribute. And this is not a charity thing. This is a basketball program, and Kenny Brooks was hired to be productive. He was hired to win games. He was hired to get Kentucky to a national championship and win it. That's why he was hired. And so he cannot have players who are not effective on the SEC level. Because truly, this is one of those instances where Cassidy Rowe is a good player. Is she built for the SEC? I would say no. That's no disrespect at all. But at a mid-major, she could be successful. She absolutely could be successful at a mid-major. And, Kentucky, even with all her injuries and whatnot, Kentucky, enjoyed having her play, and they rewarded her with a scholarship for 3 years. That time is up. Kenny Brooks is trying to do something different, and ultimately, it's not Kentucky's fault that she wants to go to PT school and wanted that paid for by the school. That's one perspective. Now, I'm not gonna tell y'all what perspective I think, because to be honest with you, I haven't really made up my mind yet. Well, I have kind of, but I'm not gonna tell y'all specifically my perspective. So that's one perspective is, hey, suck it up, Buttercup. You had 3 years of scholarship. One perspective. Now, another perspective is about loyalty and about what it means to care for your players. Here's the deal. Cassidy Rowe is not just a random player. She is someone who grew up in Kentucky. She is someone that fans absolutely loved at Kentucky. She was someone who, after games, would sign autographs and take pictures and whatnot. And that's not to say no one else did that. Other players did as well. But there was an extra special thing with her because the players, a lot of the players at Kentucky, they didn't grow up in Kentucky, right? That's not what they are, right? She was someone who was a Kentucky kid, and that is important for fans of the Kentucky program, right? Yes, Kentucky was not very good during the time that she was there, and then they get Kenny Brooks, and all of a sudden it supercharges things. Now, if Kyra Elsie was still at Kentucky, I don't think this happens. And one perspective, and the other perspective really is that this shows how cutthroat and how horrible college basketball is. Here's the deal. College basketball is not professional sports. Yes, teams have a finite number of scholarships. Yes. However, other teams have made it work before. Look at what LSU did with Izzy Besselman. There are a lot of open spots, open positions at Kentucky right now. A lot of open scholarship spots. And for them to not extend a spot for this upcoming year to Cassidy Rowe is not good. It shows that clearly Kenny Brooks does not care about family. Something that Kenny Brooks has talked about his whole time this year at Kentucky was family, and how close he was to the players, to their families, and how they built something very, very special at Kentucky. That was clearly a lie. With, again, not necessarily my perspective, but a perspective, the secondary perspective, is that you lied. You said it's all about family. You said it's all about, you said that you really enjoyed meeting Cassidy Rowe and how she was someone who, again, your words, bled blue, Kentucky blue. She was someone who really cared about this place and really loved this place and helped to welcome you on the team. And you do this to her, you can't expect players to be loyal anymore when you go out of your way to show that you are not loyal, right? So one perspective is, Kenny Brooks had to do what he had to do because she wasn't producing on the court. The other perspective is, no, this is college, not professional sports. If you offer a scholarship to a player, the player is going through all the process, right? Kentucky offered her a scholarship. Yes, of course she wanted to play for Kentucky, but the school offered her a scholarship at incoming as a freshman. She has done everything you've asked. Every single practice, she has made sure to be there. She has altered her life around this program. She's supposed to get married in, I believe, in the summer, and then she ended up changing the date to make sure it fit with their summer schedule in terms of practice. She is someone who has done every single thing you have asked, and then you do this to her. You do this to someone who is from the community. You talk about wanting community support and whatnot, but then you do this, and it's okay, it's not good. It shows that clearly it's not a family. Clearly there is no loyalty. Clearly you don't care about the plight of these players. So those are the two perspectives. Those are, in my opinion, the two perspectives. This isn't a cherry case. You need to be loyal. To me, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So yes, we see a lot of articles and messages from people who are from Kentucky, right? And they have a personal like feeling towards this. Like they're like, this is really, really messed up, Kenny Brooks. And you have people who have heard stuff about Kenny Brooks in the past, and they're like, see, this is just another thing on the Kenny Brooks list of why I don't like him, you know? And then you see the other perspective that is really, you know, there is some understanding of why this whole thing happened. Again, she got a kinesiology degree and she was, get ready to go to PT school. That's exciting. That's great. We need more PT people out there, right? But this isn't professional. Sunny says, let's call college D1 sports what they really are. They're just just farm teams for the pros. I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. The whole staying 4 years at a place, is dead in a lot of ways for college. And yes, players have the ability to move on, but it's also because it's also because like, their programs aren't loyal, and so it is what it is. It is what it is. There's so much in this realm of college sports that is not normal. It's not the way it used to be, right? Because loyalty is dead. A new coach comes in, clears house a lot of times, right? Clears house. Robbie says loyalty doesn't mean much anymore. Example, Deion Sanders lands at Colorado and tells the players probably half of them will be cut. Start looking for other programs. Not many people question Sanders. Yes. I mean, there are, in my opinion, two big perspectives, and it's up to each individual to determine, what's important. Is it people over? I want to say people over profits, but that's not really what this is. People over, production. People over, that type of thing. That's the question. B. Harris says loyalty is year to year in college. It is. It absolutely is. Yeah. Coach Vic says she got 3 years of free school without contributing on the court. Why does she think that she deserves another year? Technically, she was the reason the last coach got fired. I mean, she was productive last season. Because again, kind of. Again, she's a point guard. Her main deal was not scoring, even though she could score. And for the 2023-2024 season, she started 16 games, played around 17 minutes a game, and averaged 2.6 points a game, 1.3 assists, 1 rebound. So yes, not crazy productive, but she tried her best, right? She was there, she was working out, she was trying, right? But again, the perspective is like, hey, well, at the same time, it is what it is. Grace by God says, good morning, Quita. Some coaches love their players and others don't. I witnessed a coach who gave a scholarship to a player who really didn't play much, but they put in the effort. Yeah. And every coach has his own perspective. Like, honestly, if I was the head coach at Kentucky, I couldn't do it personally. I think there's like now, and that's if Kenny Brooks knew about all this stuff. And maybe he did, and he's like, hey, you know what? We've given you 3 years of free education. And I know that, yes, you were looking forward to having the scholarship and whatnot. And yes, I know it's important. But at the same time, I have quotas to fill. I have to create this. I need to make this stuff happen, right? MR says, bad example. Sanders took over a 1-11 team. Most of the players needed to go. Well, are you aware of overall how bad Kentucky was? Kentucky was not a very good squad in 2023, 2024, right? They weren't. And so, yeah, let me look up their roster. I mean, their record. So in 2023 and 2024 through 2024, Kentucky was 12 of 20 on the season. They were 4 of 12 in the SEC. They were towards the bottom on just about every single stat. The defensive rating was in the tubes. The offensive rating was also in the tubes. Points scored per game was terrible. Points assisted per game was terrible. Basically, they were pretty bad last year, right? Anthony says pissing off the fan base gets you fired. I mean, and supposedly the fan base is like really upset. Like, again, I've seen a lot of Twitter posts, a lot of articles, a lot of stuff online about people who are from Kentucky, people who said they were season ticket holders, and people who are just really upset about what happened with her. FM says profit over people sums it up. Michael says loyal employees get fired too. Facts. Yeah. There are people who are loyal to companies, loyal to teams, and they get let go. This is not a rare thing. This is life, right? And so ultimately, if you want loyalty, in a lot of ways, you especially on the, like, if you're playing a sport, like, you have to show production or be at a school that values what you bring, like at LSU, again, given the scholarship to Izzy Besselman. Like, there are teams that would take her in a heartbeat, but one of the things is she doesn't have she wants to go to PT school in Kentucky. Also, she was already admitted, and so admissions would be a whole thing, and she'd have to waste a year to go to another school, to transfer to another school and play basketball. So she's opted not to continue to play basketball. So that's something to know. I also want to share with you all what she put on Instagram. So she made an Instagram post about her time at Kentucky, and just made a letter to the fans, and I want to read that because I think it's an important thing to read, just so you all can again have a little bit more idea of like who she is and what she's talking about, and then we will end it for today. Okay. All right. And again, guys, let me know your perspective in the comments. Like, I could see a lot of people having two very different perspectives on the same thing, on the same issue. And I think it hits a lot closer to the people who are actually, in Kentucky. All right, so here is Cassidy Rowe's Instagram page, and I want to read the message that's here. All right, so she said, wow, I wasn't expecting this to be a goodbye post. I wanted nothing more than to play my senior year in a Kentucky uniform, but I know that God has a bigger and better plans for me. Sometimes no is God's way of preventing us from greater heartbreak. What a blessing basketball has been to my life. Basketball was my first love. I spent every single day in the gym working towards a dream that many people called me crazy for having. After facing back-to-back ACL tears, I sometimes questioned it myself. But through hard work and God's faithfulness, I was able to represent my home state and become a Kentucky Wildcat. Truly a dream come true. These past years have been some of the hardest, yet most rewarding and joyous times in my life. I'm grateful for the bad times just as much as the good because it all brought me closer to God. I have met many amazing people and made memories that I will cherish for the rest of my life. While I still have a year of eligibility left, I will not be entering the transfer portal. I will be pursuing my dream of becoming a physical therapist through the University of Kentucky's DPT program. Younger me would be crushed that our basketball career is over, but she also wouldn't believe all the things we've accomplished. I know she is proud. To Big Blue Nation, thank you. Thank you for your unwavering support and for giving this small town girl the opportunity to live out her wildest dreams. I poured everything I have into this program, and you all poured into me just the same. I will forever be grateful for that, and I will always bleed blue. John 13:7. So that's the post that she posted 3 days ago, announcing that she is done with. Not necessarily of her choice with Kentucky, and I love the fact that I love the fact that she seems to be at peace with it. She's made the decision that she could go somewhere else, but she's decided not to. And so that leads us to the end of the stream. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this. There goes echo again. The reason why I wanted to talk about this was because of two reasons. One, there was some talk about Olivia Miles not being loyal to Notre Dame, and a lot of surprise around her deciding to leave Notre Dame yesterday. There was a lot of people who were like, "What the heck? These players have too much freedom. There's way too many people in there. There are way too many people in the transfer portal. And these players are just willy-nilly going anywhere that they can." win a championship or make more money or like whatever their prerogative is. And again, we don't exactly know specifically why players like Olivia Miles had decided to leave. We don't know. Yes, there's some rumors around her Twitter, or not her Twitter, her TikTok, and like what she has reposted and liked and whatnot. But we don't specifically know why she just decided not to stay at Notre Dame. My point in this stream was to show, in my opinion, two opposites of the same coin. One instance where a player decided to leave a program that they've been at for 3 years. Again, both Olivia Miles and Cassidy Rowe are both of them are going into their senior year, right? Olivia Miles is someone who has been very, very good for Notre Dame. Again, she was fantastic as a freshman, primarily as a passer. She was out all last year in her sophomore season due to injury. She came back this year and was on fire, right? She was someone who, yes, her passes are still flashy, her passes are still fantastic, but also she showed that she can play some defense, or not some defense. Well, though she does have times in which she plays some defense, but she is someone who has shown that she can be a 40+% 3-point shooter, right? She is someone who has shown up and shown out all year, okay? So a super, super productive player. Again, I'm showing two sides of the same coin. A very, very productive player, someone who is sought after by a lot of teams throughout the country. She made the decision to say, you know what? I'm going to go in the transfer portal and I'm going to see what I can do, because I know there's a lot of teams that want me. There's a lot of teams that want me. Now, is it possible that she comes back to Notre Dame? Sure, it's possible. Is it likely? No. But technically it's possible. And if she wanted to come back, I'm sure they would, in a heartbeat, they would be like, hey, yes, come back. We would love for you to come back. So I'm showing this example of a very, very popular, very, very talented player in their final season decide to transfer and go somewhere else at probably a bigger, better program that can win a championship or whatever specifically is Olivia Miles' goal. And then you have another incoming senior who has been very loyal to the program, but is not necessarily at the level that she needs to be to stay on the program in terms of, talent wise, right? So we got Olivia Miles in one hand, we got Cassidy Rowe in the other. One is one of the best players in the country. The other would be a really, really good mid-major, coming off the bench for a mid-major, making some or even like a D2, D3 starter for sure. Someone who could, depending on the program, make some noise as a point guard, but someone who was not productive on the court this past year because Kentucky had very high aspirations. And instead of the player opting to leave, the coach opted to say, you know what, we appreciate you, but we got to get you a scholarship up. So that's why I included Olivia Miles in the thumbnail, because to me, this is an example of two opposites: 2 point guards, 2 players who've been with their team for 3 years, 2 players who have one player who actually chose their future, and another one who is more reacting to the future that was given to them. But it's still ultimately Cassidy Rowe's perspective to not go anywhere else.